Hello. Today we'll be playing NeveN. In this video, we'll be playing Chapter 3, this time from Maelbjorn's perspective. I'm not going to play everything in this update, including the part where Eric goes before the council again to display his powers to them. You watch the full Chapter 3 for a cat Chapter 3. In that video, you will see the entire Chapter 3. But for Maelbjorn and the other characters, Tanakh and Maked, I'm only going to play scenes specifically for them. Well, my lord is very organized, I see. I could learn a thing or two from him, considering the current state of my room. If a prince doesn't have some degree of personal organization, he'll never be able to manage the whole kingdom. He then hands me a book, which I immediately grab. The first letter is a T, I think, but then I have trouble understanding the word tale. Tales. The whole title is Tales and Legends of the North Seas. Stories about monsters and pirates. I'm sure you'll like it. Oh, I so will. Satisfied with this find, I settled back into my chair, ready to resume my studies. You know, I met some pirates. Very nice ones, mind you. Really? Were they the ones who taught you the sea shanty? Oh, they taught me a lot of things, including sea shanties, yes. I've obviously caught the bear's attention, and he's looking at me with a new glint in his eyes. Can you tell me about that? I haven't had much of a chance to get out of the castle, let alone travel outside the capital. Proud to be able to share my experiences with the prince and spend the rest of the day telling him about my adventures around the country. For once I feel like it's equal, and I must say, it's rather pleasant. In the morning, as I leave my room to head to the temple, Simi is waiting for me in the hallway and smiles warmly once he sees me. You didn't think we were planning to let you go to a lesson alone, did you? No, I expected it. Besides, there's worse company. I can't complain. The spy lets out a chuckle as he takes the lead. Our prince's mood changed noticeably yesterday. I guess your visit had its effect. What happened? Oh, I didn't do much. It's natural for me to improve the atmosphere. Wigan the Phoenix, who laughs as he tucks her arm under mine. I hope you don't talk too much nonsense to him. He's still young and impressionable. That's not surprising, considering he can't get out of the capital at will. The king should consider themselves lucky that he hasn't gone mad already. The Phoenix sighs as he looks at the horizon once we're out of the castle. I guess we all live in a cage one way or another. That cage responsibility we talk so much about, It always comes back to that. Plus there's this anguish in him, or is it anger? For a moment, Simi loses her smile, and then she regains it almost instantly. This is a good thing. Phosphate needs that rage. We all need it. Without anger comes apathy. For the first time, I hear a slight tremor in the Phoenix's voice, and I can't tell if it's anger or sadness. I wonder what kind of influence she has on Maelbjorn. Maybe it is necessary for the kingdom, but I'm not sure it's good for the prince. He understands his duties and the cost of power. I'm sure he'll do just fine once he's king. Simi gives me a smile meant to be reassuring, but deep down, I'm beginning to understand Maelbjorn. They don't have expectations of him, even if no one tells him clearly. He's a beacon of hope for his entire nation, so much so that they forget that he is just like everyone else at the core. I guess that's what it means to be the future king. I'm sure of it too. We spend some of the way in silence as we both enjoy the fresh air of the lower city. Do you often have the opportunity to leave the capital? Oh, rarely. The kingdom has active agents to act abroad. You don't seem to be upset about it. That's because I'm not. As much as I love my original homeland, I have grown attached to the Frosians and their way of life. Bloodthirsty barbarians, am I right? I can't help but grin at the Fennec who returns it. We both know the kingdom's reputation abroad. That's words our enemies use to refer to us, but not just with the Frosians. All peoples they deem suitable for assimilation are savages in their eyes. I guess it's a way to make themselves feel better about what they do to us. What they don't understand is that by repeating these words they make it a reality. Why should we hold back if they think we're bloodthirsty beasts? At some point, you almost want to prove them right. Should we be setting a good example instead? The spy master lets out another laugh as he shakes her head. In a better world, surely, but in reality, violence only understands violence, I fear. This makes me a future tool of that violence, and my powers prove to be useful, even if she doesn't say it clearly. That's what I'm getting from this conversation. I know it's naive, but I'm sure there's a solution to all these conflicts. Oh, I don't think that's naive to believe that. Every problem has a solution. The question is, how far are we willing to go to enforce it? But the kings know the cost of a war, and so does Makai. I doubt we'll get to that point. Whereas Maelbjorn, no, Eric, don't let that thought slip from your lips. Does it have to end with a war? Well, the second possibility is to be in a strange in between. That's where we are now. A few border skirmishes, some assassination attempts here and there, and insults in all shapes and forms. It's more like children bickering than armed conflict. I hesitate for a moment before asking. Can I be part of a third possibility with my powers? Maybe, maybe not. We're still far from having the answer to that question, I fear. I'll do my best to get that answer as soon as possible in that case. However, before I have time to discuss this any further with Semi, we come within sight of the temple. We hurry to join Vo, who is watching us from the step of the building, greeting us briefly with a nod. If you start whistling wildly, my thoughts are abruptly interrupted by the sudden encounter between my face and what appears to be a wall. However, as I look up, Vakai's in front of me, giving me the most dubious look. Oh, hi. You should look where you're going. I was lost in thought, trying not to make a habit of it. I'm doing my best. Why are you standing there? I was asked to come get you. I was expecting to see Simi. She's busy. I see he's not in a great mood today. I know he's never been one for long speeches, but his sentences are particularly short. I could try to ask him some questions to find out what's going on, but I'm starting to know the hunter. He'll only talk to me if he wants to talk to me. So we go back to the streets and I whistle as we walk, trying to fill this awkward silence. After a few minutes, however, Vakai speaks again. How did it go? Oh, my brand? Well, you see, I'm now the dread of pebbles. I thought you had a brand of time. Vo made a small stone float, and I had to freeze it in time, and that's it. That's the extent of my powers at the moment. I expected better than that, considering all the fuss everyone was making about you. This is just the beginning. I'm sure I can do better. Glad to see it's working then. And the silence falls on us again, but this time I'm the one who breaks it. And you, how are you doing? You've never been overjoyed, but you seem particularly grumpy today. Don't know what you're talking about. Let out alongside as I stare at the card. Just only something that went wrong. Nothing serious, I hope. He shrugs. Stop asking questions. You're better off not knowing anything. You know that if you ever need help. I said stop. Okay, alright. The message got through. I'm just trying to be nice. The rest of the trip was spent in uncomfortable silence. It is only when we arrive in sight of the castle gates that I hear Vika's voice again. Go on by yourself. I have things to do. Alright. He turns around and I can't help but add, Hey Vika, are you sure you're okay? He doesn't turn back as he answers, Don't worry about me. I have more important things to do. And then disappears from the streets that I had for the castle. I didn't think the failure of Maelbjorn's plan would affect him so much. In fact, I'm even beginning to doubt if that's all there is to his behavior. Fuck. I don't need to think about this on top of everything else. I should find Gil out. I'm still hitting stuff with relax. Once I arrive in front of Maelbjorn's office, I realize that for once there is no one guarding the door. So I knock and the bear's voice rings out from inside. Come in. As usual, the bear is buried in his papers. He lifts his muzzle for a moment to smile at me before turning his attention back to it as I close the door behind me. You look great. I suppose that means your training has gone well? That, my prince, is my talent for faking it. I train with Vo, then with Gilliand, and I think I've discovered some muscles in my body that I didn't know I had. You should sit down then. That's very nice of you to request. I approach Maelbjorn's desk and pull up a chair to sit opposite him. And how did it go? Well, I don't particularly want to brag, obviously, but I did pretty well with my brain. I managed to freeze a pebble in time. Again, the prince takes his eyes off his papers to give me a look of astonishment mixed with curiosity. What, you thought it was going to be harder? No, it's great. You could pretend to believe it a little more. The bear laughs as he straightens up, then seems to hesitate for a moment as he observes me. You said it so casually that I wasn't sure it was true. We'll have to warn the kings as soon as possible. Hey, it's just a tiny stone. I think they already know anyway. Gilead must have told them about it. Eric, it's more than just a stone. That means there's a whole new road ahead of us. Easy there. I got a long way to go before I can do anything useful, although I'm very eager to. Obviously, you have to progress at your own pace. We don't know enough about this brand for you to rush to use it. But I'm not worried. You're a gifted person, and not only when it comes to singing. This time it's my turn to hesitate when I see the prince's hopeful look. Let's say I can't do anything useful with my brand. What are you going to do? I almost expected to break Maelbjorn's mood, but he shrugs as he goes back to his work. What we've always done so far, Frostfang's ingenuity doesn't stop at the brand. The kings have long been preparing to fight Makad if it ever comes to it. I know that you don't necessarily want to put pressure on me, but it's still there. Welcome to my world. I guess you felt something similar with your brand. Indeed. Given the bear's dry tone and intense concentration on his documents, I don't think it's a good idea to push this discussion further. Not right now anyway. But maybe it's still possible to make something of this conversation. Anything new? Oh no, not really. Complaints and administration weren't nothing of interest to you, I'm afraid. No complaints? I know all about that. It's really about me, though. The person sneers as he scribbles something on one of the papers. Well, if you absolutely want to know more, a few soldiers destroyed some furniture and then end down in the lower city after a drunken altercation and their officers asking me what to do. I always have to get involved. They are incapable of making decisions on their own. As Maelbjorn mumbles, I pull a chair to sit in front of him. You should make the soldiers pay for part of the repairs and their officer for the rest. That'll teach them to keep an eye on them next time. They might not like that. You're the prince, right? Besides, it's either that or you're forever dealing with other people's blunders. Not every responsibility is yours. I guess it's not a totally bad idea, but where did that come from? Yeah, I learned a couple of things living with a group of artists who were not always quite orderly. Ragor, our band's leader, always taught us to fix our own mistakes, and that didn't stop him from being there when it really mattered to us. You seem to appreciate him, given the way you talk about him. The bear lifts his head to smile at me with a spark of curiosity in his eyes. Do you miss this life? It depends. The living conditions are better here, but I think I miss the simplicity of life out there. Being able to sing and dance when I feel like it, getting drunk and laughing with friends while seeing a whole lot of different landscapes. It wasn't castle life, but it was still wonderful in its own way. I pause and I return his smile to the prince as he nods comprehensively. I think I can understand how difficult it is for you here, especially since you have your brand. Oh, but I'm not to be pitied. I'm not the only one here. I'm not the only one for whom it's difficult. I insist we'll look at the bear's direction so that he understands I'm talking about him. I can't complain, Eric. I know I vented a lot the other day, and I thank you for being there to listen to me, but I'm the only one who can carry this burden. People have died for me to get there, and a lot of others would dream to be on the throne so they could make things better. This is a unique opportunity I have in my hands. I'm well aware of that. I may not be able to carry this responsibility, but I can carry you. Maelbjorn gives me a mocking smile, then he looks at himself. You need a bear muscle for that. Not literally, you big idiot. I chuckle and the bear joins me for a moment, but eventually he sighs heavily. I won't refuse your presence by my side, far from it. Just don't forget about your well-being, alright? Forget my well-being. My life is far too exciting for me to forget myself, and I'll make sure no one else forgets me either. Maelbjorn shakes his head in amusement as he goes back to his papers, and it doesn't take long before he growls. What's the matter? I know we're complaining about not getting his shipment of furs. How's that your problem? Ricard usually takes care of it, but I've needed him lately, so he hasn't been able to hunt for fur recently. This particular noble is, well, let's just say he is known to have some very special requests. Ooh. Ricard told me a story about a guy wiping himself with mink fur, so I can imagine how special it can be. The bear can't help but chuckle again. Well, it's the same person. And you still take his request seriously, knowing that? Maelbjorn swells and I stand up to oppose him. No choice, he's a noble. I snatch the letter from the bear's paws and step back as he looks at me with uncertainty. What are you doing? How do you wipe your ass with a piece of cloth like everyone else? Yeah, but give it back. Just tell me, or I'll write nonsense over it. The prince stands up and slowly walks towards me, holding out his hand as if he expects me to give him the paper back. Don't be silly, you can't even write. That's precisely why it will be nonsense. He sighs heavily as I retreat until my back is very literally against the wall. You can't go much further. Oh no, I'm stuck between a wall and a big bear. How terrible. I guess I touch a glance in Maelbjorn's direction as he merely observes me with a jaded look. He seems to be playing along as he pins me against the wall for a moment, bringing his muzzle near my head to whisper in my ear. You'll have to be more subtle than that, dwarf rabbit. Then at an instant he snatches the letter from my hands and returns to his desk with a sneer. Hey, that's not fair. You're exploiting my weaknesses. Your weaknesses aren't quite hard to exploit. He takes a long look at the piece of paper he's holding and ponders as he turns his gaze towards me. I guess he doesn't need to know that this message is from me. Besides, he was rather rude in his letter. He smiles at me mischievously as he picks up a quill. How about if you want to wipe your fur, use your own? I can tell you're not trained in the art of insulting others. That's too nice. Your first suggestion wasn't really insulting either. Yeah, wait. I'll think of something. I draw my chair to sit beside the prince and think long and hard. That's when I spot a tuft of fur on the floor. Without waiting, I pick it up and place it on the desk as I look at Maelbjorn with my most serious face. What? Send it to him and tell him to make do with it. It's pretty clear that the bear is having trouble staying serious about this idea. It's not insulting. No, but it's funny. I must admit, it is funny. He starts laughing, then I join in. With difficulty, he begins to write the letter. This is stupid. Of course it is, and that's exactly why it's fun to do it. It shouldn't become a habit. Once in a while, it's not a habit. Plus, don't tell me it doesn't feel good to let off a little steam. The prince nods as he is writing. I must admit that it's relaxing. I can't really describe it. How many times have you had to deal with morons? I can't imagine how hard it was not to let them know that they are idiots. Ooh, yes, but I can't allow to. As a prince, I must be above that. I have a hard time imagining how frustrating that must be. Maelbjorn shrugs as he puts the letter back in his envelope, and I add the tuft of fur in it under his amused gaze. I know that once I'm in power, they'll take me more seriously. At least I hope so. I feel like you underestimate yourself sometimes. I'm a realist. The old nobility doesn't dare to criticize me directly, but they have made it clear to me several times that I don't deserve the throne. And why? Only because of your brand? The prince uses his gaze on the papers lying on his desk, but I have the impression that it's only to avoid my eyes more than from interest in them. There's that, but also the fact that I'm adopted and heir to kings who took power by force. They feel that Lus and Aeon should have let the clan leaders vote for a king rather than impose themselves. But that was out of the question. Half of them were on the losing side of that civil war before my adopted father decided to pardon them. So the tension has never fully eased since, as I understand it. Yes, that's a problem. Vincent the Bear finds a document that catches his interest and starts scribbling on it. Since the king's been in charge, they've been scrambling to find as much incriminating information about the noble families as possible. That's how we keep them on a tight leash for now. But we all know that at some point they will become a problem again. They're always starting to be. I don't know much about politics, but if I may offer a word of advice, you should do a show of force. What exactly do you consider to be a show of force? Something impressive to prove that you don't intend to let them walk over you. Maelbjorn looks at me with a smile before he returns his attention back to his paper. That's an idea, but unfortunately it's easier said than done. Not to mention that it's taking the risk of infuriating them even more. Oh, I'm not telling you to become a tyrant and execute them all. Just a little something to make it clear to them that you are the future king. I guess I can think about that, but my brand... Stop obsessing over your brand. You're much more than that. It matters to them. I can hardly ignore their expectations. That's because they don't know what they're missing by reducing you to that. The prince needs to hear some things, even if it might be embarrassing to admit it. You know, I got to visit a few courts with nobles from all over the country. A lot of them have preconceived notions about the world and how the common people live. Yet they could get out of their castles, travel and see the reality of the outside world. There was nothing to hold them back. But none of them I knew took that first step. But you were able to understand me very quickly, and yet you were stuck in this city. Seeing his confused look, I smiled at him hesitantly. Come on, Eric, you can compliment him. It won't kill you. something that others don't. I don't know exactly what I don't know exactly what to call it, but I guess some would say it's a form of intelligence or empathy. That's the word I was looking for. Well, whatever it is, you're capable of things that many other nobles are incapable of. They don't see that in you because they don't have that little something in them. Now he's the one who looks embarrassed. I even feel like I can see a slight blush under his fur. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate that, really. I wish I was as sure of my talents as you are, but just, I don't want to hear that. I'll help you develop that potential, whether you like it or not. That's one of the reasons I enjoy your company. You give me a different perspective, not to mention my unparalleled charm, understanding singing skills, and ironclad humility. I'm punctuating my self-praise for a week aimed at Maelbjorn, who chuckles as he observes me with a sort of tenderness in his eyes. Truly unique. I blush too. Then I clear my throat to break the awkward silence. It's been a long time since I felt that buzz in my stomach. Anyway, I should probably work on my writing. You can do it next time. You can do it next to me. I don't mind. Good. Wasn't going to ask for your approval anyway. I set my tongue out at him as he starts laughing while putting a blank sheet of paper in front of me. There are a few lines of letters you already know, while I deal with the rest of these grievances. I grab my quill and, while making copies of various letters, I wash the bear from the corner of my eye. Say, have you ever been settled? Settled? In a relationship? Oh, well, let's just say I've had a few flings, nothing too permanent. You can tell me you're a big flirt, you know? I flash a mocking smile at the prince who merely sighs. I'm not, but from what I know about you, I think you are. Let's not exaggerate. For a traveling bard, I'm actually well behaved. I mean, even if you are a big flirt, I could hardly blame you. We all need to let off some steam now and then. That's a very romantic way of saying we should have fun while we can. Maelbjorn smirks slightly as he puts away some papers. And what about true love, Can bards find it, or are they doomed to wander eternally in the barren wilderness of carnal pleasure? You say that as if the concepts of true love and pleasure cannot coexist. Let's just say that, in my experience, those who want their pleasure above all else are told the idea of fidelity. Well, that sounds like a heartbreak. Maybe. What explanation have the bear understand me better? I said as I remember Vigil for a moment. I had quite a bit of time to think about this matter. In fact, I wonder about it constantly. And I know that from an outsider's perspective, I come across it as well as a very horny rabbit. But you see, I've known true love, at least what I thought was true love at the time, and I screwed up big time. Maelbjorn's concerned gaze falls on my kill, and I realize that a large ink stain is smeared across my exercise seat. I'm sorry. Never mind, I got a bunch of other seats for that. I simply put the kill down in its holder as I sigh heavily. Long story short, I think loser relationships are less difficult to deal with. And if it doesn't work out, the separation is as painful. So since a specific relationship failed, you forbid yourself to love forever? It did much more than just fail, and crumbled horribly. Plus, I don't know. I feel like it was my only chance, and it's over. It sounds like you're having trouble telling yourself it's over. It's not returning your past feelings to allow yourself to love again. As I listen to Maelbjorn, I rub my eyes and shrug. All I know is that I hope to understand what's happened to me one of these days. Besides, I'm still young. I have time for love. It's clear that the bear is trying to reassure me by smiling warmly at me, and in a way it works, at least a little. I understand that the quest for love takes time. Anyway, I hope you won't take offense at my slightly more traditional approach to the subject. I've had enough experiences to know that I want to be settled for good, as you say. Oh no, on the contrary, I think it's sweet. For once, is a prince on top of the tower, not a princess. He chuckles. I wink at him as I resume my exercise on a new seat. Besides, I think you are very far from traditional. The few nobles I've known were very much into the idea of passing on their title. For what I know of you, you are not necessarily looking to have children, am I wrong? And that's a question that's been on my mind for a long time. Let's just say I've explored all the possibilities, and some of them are not optimal when it comes to producing heirs. The bear dips his quill into the inkwell several times while flashing me a big smile. It's strangely sexual in its contents, and I'm not sure he realizes it. But since you have two adopted fathers, I don't think you are under the usual pressure to have your own children. Indeed, I've always been pretty free in that respect. Do you still want to have kids? I don't know. At the moment, no. But apparently the desire comes later for some people. In any case, I can't adopt, and the need arises. But wouldn't the nobility take it badly? Oh, no doubt. Maelbjorn grabs a letter with a tuft of fur intended for the noble and lays it in front of me with an amused look. I suppose I'll have to give them this sort of message more often in that case. My lord learns to be irreverent. You make a good student. Unlike you, focus on those exercises. Hey, I'm the perfect student. Just ask Vaughn and Gillian. They love me. I'm sure they do. Knowing them, they're really the type to get attached to others. He sneers and I can't help but smile as I trace the letter. You know, I'm not sure I've mentioned this before, but I really appreciate the opportunity to spend time with you. And you better believe the feeling's mutual. You're a nice change from the usual sycophants and people who would like to see me disappear. I'm right in between, arrogant enough to stand up to you, but benevolent enough not to be willing to murder you for 2 coins. In short, I'm the perfect companion. That's for sure. I can tell you're different in your own way. I'm sure that's why you wanted to make me an informant as soon as I arrived, and not talk about my neutrality was a load of crap. And my insistence, the prince shakes his head in exasperation as he sighs. Don't push the joke too far. I might start to think you're serious. I chuckle and continue my exercise in silence. It's strange, but I'm beginning to enjoy the sound the tip of my quill makes on the paper. From time to time, I see Maelbjorn watching my progress from the corner of his eye when he has finished reading a document. For my part, I watch him sign each time he is immersed in his papers. I must say that this is not how I imagine the life of the prince. It lacks a touch of debauchery and scandal in my opinion. Fuck. In the moment, I'm rather surprised. It's rare to hear the bear swear, and I think my astonishment is obvious. Sorry. Is something wrong? No, just another stupid request. Carried away by curiosity, I lean towards the paper in his hand, and he immediately takes it out of my sight. What is it about? Eric. Come on, you know you won't defeat my curiosity. The prince gives me an exasperated look. Then he gives in to my unstoppable charisma. This is a complaint about the cleanliness of the streets. I'll spare the details, but it's pretty scabrous. You can imagine that it's not usually the kind of problems I deal with. Well, at least it brings you closer to people's reality. And sometimes I have more important things to do, like prepare a bar competition. There's to stick my tongue out and mock Maelbjorn is tempting, but something tells me he doesn't need that right now. Ugh. At least it serves the greater good of the kingdom. I'm not going to find a solution to our biggest problems at the bottom of a pile of water. Forget it. My point is that we have a lot of issues to deal with already. I could be helping my fathers, and instead they're making me work on whatever this is. I feel like I'm being punished like a child. Why would they do that? They didn't like the way I handled the rescue of the Macadian diplomats, and they wanted to take charge of the situation. If you ask me, they're not entirely wrong. Not only did you screw up, but it's too serious a matter for you to handle on your own. The bear glares at me before turning his attention back to his documents. Thanks for your support, I guess. Hey, you're the one who said you appreciate my honesty. You have to live with it. Maelbjorn's only response is a slight grunt. It seems I have offended his highness. So I stand out silently, and he glances at me out of the corner of his eye as I approach. Then I slide my fingers against the back of his neck, and I feel him tense at my touch. Eric, what are you doing? You've never had a massage? I don't think so, but that's not the point. You're not a servant. You don't have to do that. What makes you think I need to be a servant to do that? Besides, I barely touched you for 2 seconds before I felt you tense up. It's a reflex. Nobody touches me usually. It can be quite inconvenient when you have to participate in some duties. Not in these situations, you dummy. His deep laugh echoes in my ears. After all, it's pretty easy to get him in a good mood. So, does that mean you don't want a massage? No, on the contrary, I was just surprised. Perfect. I was doing my motion without delay, sliding my fingers down his neck to the beginning of his shoulders. I must admit the armory doesn't help much, but my massage seems to be having an effect. Since the more I apply pressure to his body, the more his muscles relax. That feels nice. You know, it would feel even better if I had access to the rest of your body. And how far would you go if you could, Maelbjorn's intonation is surprisingly playful. I have to admit, I didn't expect that from him. So I follow his teasing. Oh, come on, Eric. This is not every day you get this opportunity. It all depends, I guess. How far will you let me go? Probably far enough for your curiosity to be piqued, but not far enough for it to be saturated. I can't help but smile as I lean in to whisper in his ears, using my naughtiest voice. Well, dear Prince, I didn't know that aspect of your personality. But as I said, I am not a servant. And with that, I step aside with a grin, fully expecting to leave the bear wanting more. But then he turns to me with what appears to be a falsely disappointed expression. You giving up easily? First a kiss, now this. A lot of talk, but not much action. Maybe these songs about mass horsing problems should be aimed at you. Even though I obviously know I don't have any problems in that area, it doesn't stop me from being shot in the heart. Yeah, that's not fair. You told me about the desire to be in a relationship. I'm only helping you to respect your chastity vows. I wouldn't exactly call it a chastity now. This time I'm about to retort, someone knocks on the door. Maelbjorn stands up and smiles at me before he opens it. You can hardly see who is behind his towering stature, but eventually two large ears stick out and my gaze meet Simi's before she even has time to speak. I have important information, my prince, but I don't know if it's wise to discuss it here. Does it concern him directly? No, it concerns you. In that case, all the more reason for him not to leave. He must know the realities of politics. The defendant nods as the bear sits to let her in. She then hesitates as she looks at me out of the corner of her eye before returning her attention to Maelbjorn. A servant overheard a conversation between the Lord of Karamar and an identified person. Although it was in jest, they were criticizing the kings. Do we have any incriminating information about this lord? This is not the first time he has made clear his displeasure with the leaders of our kingdom. Other than that, we don't know much about him, but I have an agent on his case. Good, I want to know every speck of dirt that may have tainted his life. The master spy bows before leaving, giving me a brief smile. On her way. Once the door is closed, the bear sighs as he goes back to his seat. As you heard, trouble is never far away. It is forbidden to criticize the kings. If so, many people out there would be arrested. No, it's not forbidden per se. What's worrying is that nobles are criticizing us more and more openly. Some of them have too great ambitions for their own good. That's why they need to be reminded who holds the power. I wish, as I recall, the Macadian fable may be unaware to me. To each their neighbor, to each their nature, and to each their place, right? Oh, that doesn't mean you have to take harsh decisions against them. We avoid violent displays as much as possible, but if you're really worried about it, believe me, you'd be inclined to punish some of them if you really knew what these people are capable of. There's a reason Lust and Aeon managed to convince the common people of Phosphate to support them during the Civil War. They had a score to settle with the nobility. I guess everything is more complex than it looks, as always. Indeed, but I'm not asking you to take my word for it. Given your natural curiosity, you couldn't have any trouble asking other people's opinions on the subject. That's our idea, after all. You said it yourself. I must know the realities of politics. The prince nods as he resumes his work. To move on to a larger topic, how do you feel about the performance you're preparing for my birthday? Are your rehearsals with a cat going well? Oh yes, more than that, actually. I don't think I'll be able to write an original song by then, but I promise I give it my all to make it memorable. Glad to hear it. I know the pressure can be hard to handle, but it sounds like you're handling it perfectly. If there's one place I feel comfortable, it's our soul. I'm looking forward to it then. I was over Maelbjorn's attention to my well-being. I immerse myself in my exercises. I hum happily. The bear seems to be completely absorbed in his work too, so we work silently for the rest of the day. Eventually, I leave him to his administrative and management duties to take a well-deserved rest. My body is aching like never before, and though this moment spent with the prince was relaxing, I must admit that a chair is not as good as a bed. I close my eyes and let the fatigue take me away. I find myself in another bed, wide and comfortable. And I'm not alone. Someone is behind me, holding me tenderly against him. Who? No one, just someone. Someone who cares about me, someone who worries about my well-being, someone who wants me to be happy. I snuggle up to him and I gently rub my head against his chest, my eyes closed. I'm content to enjoy his presence. He seems to enjoy it just as much as I do as his arms slowly close around me. I let myself get lost in the sensations, his fur against mine as he slowly caresses my chest. Gradually his hand carefully moves up my neck, sending shivers down my spine. He eventually strokes my muzzle, his fingers gliding over my fur. I can feel him resting his muzzle on my head, slipping it between my ears as he sighs with relief. His voice sounds soft, almost purring. Hello, sweetheart. Before I can say his name, his hand tightens around my muzzle, forcing me to keep it shut. Why is Viggo here? This was supposed to be a sweet moment. I wanted to relax. It's not fair. It's not fucking fair. I'm struggling, trying to get out of his grip, and to no avail. Shh, come on, calm down, sweetheart. You know I would never hurt you, and I will always be there for you. I know you're not doing well right now. You have a lot of pressure on you, so I came to help you and support you because I love you. I'm the best lover in the world, after all. That's what you used to say to me, right? Those were the days, you and me against the world, hand in hand, never without each other, the little terrors of Garner. And then you left, and you abandoned me. I've grown louder. I want to wake up, but I can't. I'm stuck here with him, with this distorted vision of Viggo. But that's okay. I'm not mad at you. I know you had to go. How could you stay after all you've done? I also know how you feel about your pretty bear. I feel a shiver of fear down. I feel one through my body. Well, I'm not jealous. I know what's going on, and so do you. It's not him you're attracted to, not really. It's just what you see of him. It's just what you see of me and him. And isn't that proof of your love? You miss me so much that you look for me in other people. And that's normal. After all, we both know that I am the only one who can really love you. I'm the only one who can accept you and all that you've done. My liar. My Well, how about a sparring session? The prince blinks as he lifts his eyes from the paper lying in front of him. He looks at me with obvious concern. I need it, and you'll have the occasion to see what I can do with my brand. I suppose it would be a welcome break from all this obviously exciting work. The bear smiles at me as he straightens up, stretching slowly. I wish I could return a courtesy, but I don't have the strength to smile. Is everything all right? Not really, but if you don't mind, I'd like not to talk about it. Not right now, anyway. Maelbjorn silently nods before taking the lead. I don't usually need guidance anymore. I know the castle like the back of my hand from walking its halls, but tonight my mind's completely foggy. Once in front of the room, the bear pushes the heavy door without any difficulty and closes it again once I've entered. Somehow I'm glad to be here, alone with him. It reminds me of my early days in Frostfang, though they weren't exactly smooth sailing either. Let's start by looking at what you've learned with Gilliant, then I'll see what you can do with your brand. I'm not sure I can say I'm ready to be one of the kingdom's elite warriors, but I suppose it will still be better than our first fight. I managed to draw a chuckle from the prince as he armed himself with a wooden club, moving into a stance. This time I don't hesitate to keep my rapier. I know how much I need against him. Tell me your stance. Seeing the professional look on Maelbjorn's face, I understand how important this is for him. So tilting as a joke is, I brace myself my weapon pointed at him. He nods silently, and I wink at him as we gain the strength to smile. See, the silly bard can learn. Oh, I never doubted it, but if I were in your place, I wouldn't be too quick to boast. The prince strikes the tip of my rapier with his club, but this time I grip his handle firmly, and the sword does not escape me. You are far too kind to me, dear prince. I expected to see more strength in this blow. One thing at a time. Are you afraid I'll hurt you? The bear sneers as he looks up and down. Then he resumes his position in front of me. I'm mostly afraid I could hurt you. Is that right? Now it's my turn. I strike Maelbjorn's improvised weapon with my rapier, then I put the tip of the sword against his armored torso. Am I still the defenseless dwarf rabbit? As he grins, the prince suddenly steps back and strikes my weapon again. However, this time his attack doesn't end there. Almost instinctively, we cross blades, or should I say, we cross blade and club. Anyway, we exchange a few blows. Not bad. As Gilliant taught me, I stay solidly on my paws and counterattack as soon as possible. This time, rather than strike randomly, I take care to aim at the parts that are not protected by the armor. Obviously, Maelbjorn makes it easy for me by not wearing all his armor. With gauntlets and a helmet, it would be much more difficult for me. So I try to aim at his neck and armpits to immerse myself in the most realistic situation. After all, if I'm going to face any Macadians, I doubt they'll come naked, though the idea isn't entirely unpleasant. Now that's what I call a dance. The prince's strikes suddenly become faster, and I'm forced to retreat while swinging my sword to block each of them. Fortunately, I'm no longer afraid of unintentionally hurting him. Not only do I know that I am incapable of doing so, but I also feel that I now have more control over my weapon and myself. I can feel the fatigue beginning to weigh on my arm with each exchange of blows. I know I won't last forever in such a situation. Although my pride makes me want to push the exercise a little further, I also have no desire to take a club to the face. Stop, I surrender. The bear steps back as he lowers his weapon and salutes me with a nod before smiling at me. I see you and Gillian did a good job. You doubted it? He's training our other guards, so I have no doubt about his abilities in that regard. While moving towards a bench, I take a mocking look. Oh, so you just doubted me? Let's rather say I was doubting his ability to teach someone who isn't built to be a warrior. Oh, built for it or not, I'll never be a warrior. That's obvious, but now you have the basis to defend yourself. Maelbjorn sits beside me and watches me with that usual proud look I've seen him display before. I hope I won't need it, but in the worst case, I'm sure I could use my new fighting skills to put on quite a show. Can you imagine me pretending to be a warrior while singing? The idea of a warrior bard would depict our country surprisingly well. It would make you the perfect representative of fostering culture. He laughs as he stands up again, pointing his club in my direction. Enough of the chit-chat. I'd like to see you in action with your brand now. Oh, like, now? You told me you were able to elevate it, so I'm sure you can show me. No pressure, Eric. You trained for this. I take a deep breath as I stand up, then hold my rapier out in front of me. It's in the heart of my country, on top of this great snowy peak. The bear gives me a questioning look as I begin to sing. Oh, that's right. Maybe I forgot to mention that. The song is my awakening gesture. That's rather uncommon, but not surprisingly coming from you. He chuckles as I clear my throat to continue my song. That the elders would set us free. We the meager, oh we the weak. Suddenly I feel the gentle warmth that engulfs my back, and at last I can let go of my weapon. The rapier floats before me as Maelbjorn watches it in wonder, circling around it as if to see if there is any trickery to make it stay that way. And you were afraid to summon your powers? You thought it wouldn't be enough. I don't have time to brag before the bear grabs me and lifts me off the ground. Yeah, easy there. He then hugs me tightly as if I were a mere cloth doll, causing me to instantly lose my breath. Well, that's what I call a somewhat unusual self-affection, especially coming from the prince. I knew you could do it. Finally, he puts me on the ground, and I catch my breath, still feeling a little disoriented. I know you care a lot, but if you could keep from breaking my spine next time, I would be grateful. I can't help but chuckle as I retrieve my weapon while the prince rubs his head in embarrassment. Sorry, I got carried away. Upon seeing his embarrassment, I can only be encouraged to go further. After all, every opportunity is good to tease him. That said, I don't say no to hugs when they are less brutal. In turn, Maelbjorn puts on a mocking face as he answers me. I reserve that for a very specially dwarf rabbit. Oh, Ellie, eh? So I'm not refined enough to enjoy princely contact? It's not exactly refinement I'm looking for anyway. Oh, I understand you prefer the refreshing experience of rustic discovery, very exotic. I manage to elicit a chuckle from the bear as he goes back into position. Show me if you can use your powers in a combat situation instead of talking nonsense. I must confess I'm not yet trained for this. Good, in that case, it's time to see if you can do it. So I stand on guard and Maelbjorn attacks me with a fluid and slow enough strike to give me a chance. And this time I concentrate on the club he holds tightly. To my surprise, the bear seems momentarily stopped in his tracks. Then the next moment he charges at me without the club and forces me to deviate my blade before slamming into me. We both fall on the ground and the prince starts laughing above me as he visibly tries not to crush me. Sorry, that was too tempting. Carried away by the embarrassment of the situation, I land a punch on his armored torso, which hurts me more than it hurts him. Ah, you idiot. I could have hurt you with my rapier. I trust your abilities. That's at least one person who believes in my soldiering career, I guess. Suddenly, I find myself facing Maelbjorn charging me with his wooden club. I'm surprised that my power didn't work, so much so that the bear disarms me with ease before smacking my butt with his training weapon while letting out a loud laugh. Then I seem to regain consciousness as the sound of the club falling to the ground rings in my ears. Maelbjorn standing over me again, watching me with a worried expression. Eric, is everything alright? Yeah, I saw you. You were going to hit my ass with your weapon again. He blinks and straightens up while helping me do the same. How do you know that? It's part of my power, I think. I can see what would happen if I hadn't used it. Impressive, so you really can see through time. I suppose so, yeah. Unfortunately, it's often at my expense that it works. I will rarely use my power to stop something pleasant. While saying that, I rub my butt with a grunt. I still feel that blow, by the way. I could have gone easy. Well, you're you from the other possibility. I'm sorry, I think. Nah, it would be silly to blame you for that. It's like blaming someone for that. It's like blaming someone for what they did in a dream. It doesn't make sense. Technically, I was still going to do it if you didn't use your power. I can't help but smile when I see the prince's playful look. They're not helping your case. I'm sure I'll find a way to make it up to you. You better. The bear settles back on the bench with a sigh, then beckons me to come closer. So, do you want to talk to me about what was bothering you? I blinked, realizing that for a moment I forgot about Vigo and that damn nightmare. I guess I can't escape some explanation. I owe it to Maelbjorn. I had a bad dream about Vigo, and it made me question my ability to move on. I feel like I'm trapped in the past forever. You don't think time will heal that? I'd like to think so, but it's been a while since it's over between us. Plus, how can I claim to be loyal if I'm still thinking of someone else? The prince squints his eyes as he listens to me. He seems to have a sudden realization. Does this have anything to do with our discussion the other day? What? Your sudden urge for romantic loyalty. We talked about that. Oh, maybe. That's rather flattering, but I'm not asking you to go against your nature. If you want a solution to your problem, find it for yourself, not for me. I've seen enough people force themselves to be different to try to please my fathers or me. If you expect more from me, I want you to be yourself. Maelbjorn smiles at me reassuringly, and in that moment, a pleasant warmth fills my entire being. The lovely sensation is followed by tingling and shivering as I try to regain control of myself. Okay, I'll do my best to be myself then. I must admit that our little training session helped me a lot. Thanks for being there for me. Oh, you're welcome. It was more than needed for me too. It's satisfying seeing your progress. I'm sure you found a worthy opponent in me. I wink at the bear who chuckles while giving me a little shoulder tap. I shudder at the thought of having to face the terrible dwarf rabbit when he finishes his training. Enjoy the opportunity to mock me as long as I don't use my powers on you. It won't last long. I'd like to see you try. I start humming a song while looking at him with amusement. Oh, are you actually going to do it? The prince gives me a defiant look without trying to stop what's about to happen. I don't focus my attention on the bear himself since I've never trained to use my brain on a living being. I'm far too afraid that something unexpected will happen if I use my powers on him. Besides, I doubt he weighs less than 80 kilos anyway, so it wouldn't work. His armor, on the other hand, is another story, although I wonder if it will work with him wearing it. Try to move, just to see if you can. NeveN tries to stand up, but he's clearly stuck in place. I then lean forward with a mischievous look, while the bear looks no less amused. It looks like my dear prince, is stuck. What a shame. Then, without a word, I turn my back on him as I begin to walk away. Really? Really? Obviously, I don't really intend to leave him there, but for once I have the upper hand on him, so I'm savoring the moment. However, while I'm basking in my control over this gigantic bear, something is wrapped around my wrist. Where do you think you're going? And suddenly, I am pulled backwards by what appears to be a saddle until I find myself sitting in Maelbjorn's lap as he wraps both arms around me. If I am forced to be stuck here, then so are you. Yeah, that's not fair. Is that your brand? It is. I thought you didn't like it. The bear sneers as he continues to hold me against him. Just because I don't like using my brand doesn't mean I'll hesitate to do so when necessary. Oh, so you really think I'm dangerous? I then lower my gaze and watch the saddle gradually withdraw from the prince's left arm. Your power looks useful, though. At least I could reach cells that are normally too high. Without considering your size, I doubt you really need it, but still. Upon hearing Maelbjorn's grunt, I raised an amused eyebrow at him. Why don't you release me now? I'm perfectly fine staying here. Do you really want to play who is the most stubborn? You're the one who wants to keep me with you, aren't you? I don't plan on staying here forever, Eric. Well, I'm sure you can't wait to get back to your very interesting papers. You have a point. So he spent a few seconds in total silence before I sighed as I released the bear from my control. And I get a glimpse of what would have happened without my power. Nothing. We would have said good night, and I would have gone back to my bedroom. But it's obvious that I would have liked to have a brand useful to my craft. I begin to think that this one has some advantages as well. I blink as I realize that the prince is still keeping me against him, even though he is no longer blocked. Maelbjorn, you can move, you know? I know. Then why are we staying here? You wanted this, didn't you? I'm surely not going to complain, even if the metal of his armor is still not to my taste in terms of comfort. It's still a nice moment I can spend with him. You know what? For once I think it's worth it. Going against my nature, I mean. I don't want to make promises I can't keep, but I will do my best to get vigor out of my head. If you consider that a good thing for you, then it is good for me too. All I want is for you to come out of this in a healthy state. And I say that both as a prince and as a heir. I think we're past the friendship stage, you and I. I can't help but let out a chuckle as I lift my head to seek the bear's gaze. I think so too, but I understand that this relationship is hard to define. I don't know what to call it either. I don't worry about that. Time will tell. The door suddenly opens, which startles me along with the prince. I don't have time to stand as Gillian enters the room, watching us with surprise. We exchange a silent glance for a while as I slowly rise from Maelbjorn's lap. That was an interesting sparring lesson. For sure. You've made a lot of progress since our last fight. Even if I only seen the captain's eyes, it's quite clear we're not helping our case. I can always leave you alone if needed. I don't think that's necessary. Yes, we have finished our training. The bear stands up, clearing his throat, then nods and smiles at me. I can't wait to see your cell anyway. I'm sure you'll be able to do something impressive on my birthday. I'll do my best, and in turn I salute Maelbjorn before heading for the exit, but not without offering a smile to the panther who, for once, returns a mocking expression. Good evening, I suppose. Very good evening to you too. With a big smile on my lips, I walk out of the training room and back to my room, of my head full of far more pleasant dreams. To be continued. Hello, everyone. This is where this month's chapter ends. We hope you enjoyed this part of the story. If you want more information about NeveN, feel free to follow us on Twitter. We also have a Discord, allowing you to chat among community members. Finally, if you would like to support our project, we also have a Patreon that offers you a series of benefits, such as builds 2 weeks in advance, but also unique stories about the characters of NeveN. If you like the VN, please also feel free to rate us on Itch.io. It will help us a lot. Once again, thank you all so much, and see you next month for the next chapter. So, as Maelbjorn said, they are beyond friends now. As Maelbjorn said, I don't know what that is, but it's certainly more closer. It's certainly bigger than a friendship now. I think it's something intimate between the two of them. I certainly don't think it's anything sexual, but it's certainly something between being intimate and being like really sexual, like a loving relationship between the two. The relationship has certainly grown to a point where they're not playfully, but they're like they're jousting in a serious but like more playful and friendly way. And throughout this update, Eric has been giving Maelbjorn advice on how to rule and to settle minor issues in the city. Like he suggested that the responsibility for the issues of the nobles should be delegated to the guards, or I think the city guards, police, I guess what they are. But anyway, Eric told Maelbjorn that instead of these issues being his responsibility, that they should be delegated to the city guards, that it should be for them to handle with the nobles in the dirty streets, instead of it being the prince's responsibility. And the prince seemed to agree. So throughout these days that he's been in the kingdom, he's certainly been helping Maelbjorn and giving Maelbjorn a totally different point of view from that of a commoner. And we got to see more of Maelbjorn. He's not that bad of a person at all, really. He's more of a benevolent and merciful person, because at the beginning he seemed to be more stern and a little harsh, but as we got to know him more, we realized that he's not really that bad at all. I don't know I'm not sure if he was always like that, or if it's because of Eric that made him lighten up a little bit. So Eric's presence around Maelbjorn certainly has helped Maelbjorn and how he approaches things and how he deals with the public. And in the next chapter, you'll see how well he does with his powers at Maelbjorn's birthday. So that would probably be like chapter 4. We will be seeing Maelbjorn's birthday through all the other characters too, but I think for the birthday chapter, Maelbjorn's version of chapter 4 would be the one that I'm most looking forward to, because I will be looking at Maelbjorn's birthday through the perspective of the other characters. We'll definitely learn more about how Eric did through Maelbjorn's version of chapter 4, because it's his birthday and his point of view matters the most compared to other characters. So this was a nice update. All the information for the game was in the description box below. You always saw in the outro where they mentioned they have a Discord and Twitter. So thank you all very much for watching. Goodbye.